In a surprising turn of events, Brooke Hogan, the beloved daughter of late pro wrestling icon Hulk Hogan, has made an appearance on air with Bubba the Love Sponge, who was previously Hulk Hogan's best friend. They had that falling out over that leaked tape, which Brooke now acknowledges that he was not actually the person who betrayed his longtime friend, leaking that recording. And she also had quite a lot of other interesting things to share, including raising suspicion about Hulk Hogan's death, wondering why there was never an autopsy conducted. What started as questions about the official cause of death has now spiraled into a much deeper story of concern. Thanks to his daughter, Brooke Hogan, she went on the Bubba the Love Sponge radio show and laid out in stunning detail why she believes there's far more to the story of her father's death. Of course, the icon Hulk Hogan, known for his patriotism and love of America, but also a very close friend of many country superstars. You had him walking out into a sold-out stadium with Morgan Wallen recently as well. He was also close with Kid Rock and many others. Now, initially, reports surfaced that Hulk had passed away from leukemia, but Brooke Hogan's account paints a very different picture. One focused on her father's well-documented heart problems and his final controversial marriage. Brooke started by talking about her dad's heart condition. He apparently had a calcified aortic valve, and she recounted a conversation with the doctor from about 3 years ago. The doctor prescribed a potential surgery as a last-ditch effort that would buy you 10 years, but not more. Brooke, who often advocated for a more holistic approach, was hesitant about such a major operation. But this is where her suspicion really kicks in. She finds it incredibly strange that an autopsy was never performed. Her logic is clear, and she puts it this way.
Yes, you can have a heart attack, but what was the reason for the heart attack is the question. Because if he was up and doing breathing exercises and stuff, that means that the surgery on his heart was a success and it was working.
She described how her father had a long history of heart issues, including atrial fibrillation, and had undergone so many cardioversions over the years. She even shared a personal story about how she once helped calm his racing heart at home. Not with a trip to the ER, but with a Valium and some canned oxygen she bought on Amazon for hikers. Her point was that his condition was something they had managed for years, and the story around his death just wasn't adding up in her opinion. But her concerns go far beyond just the medical details. A huge part of her suspicion is directed towards her father's new wife. Brooke said her dad had told her he was never getting married again, but then things changed. She says her dad told her his new girlfriend was, quote, pushing the marriage thing real hard. And then she dropped this bombshell. She says she had a conversation with her dad where he told her, I'm trying to figure out a way, out of this thing, whatever. Brooke suggested he could just blame the breakup on her, and his response was chilling. He told her, well, if I broke up with her, it'd be really bad. When Brooke pressed him on what that meant, he just said, I don't want to get into it. That conversation clearly left Brooke with a deep sense of dread. This led her to do her own digging. She says she learned that the wife, who claimed to have left Scientology, was actually still in good standing. Her parents are apparently high-level members. Brooke's concerns grew so much that she said she consulted with noted Scientology critic Mike Render, who she says didn't have very savory things to say. She even had an ex-FBI friend look into the situation. Now, Brooke made it clear she was pleading with her father, telling him, hey, you need to be careful. If you want to just date her, cool. Just don't get married. Her fears also extended to her father's legacy and his iconic memorabilia. And this part is just heartbreaking. She talked about the legendary Thunderclips cape from Rocky III just hanging next to a coffee machine in a shop. She had begged her dad to let her secure these items in a temperature-controlled storage unit. And now she's left with nothing.
Who knows where all that stuff is now that he died? Who knows?
Where's it going to go?
Running the shop and stuff. Who knows? Who knows where all of his beautiful memorabilia is? I don't have one single thing of my dad's.
What?
So now we have a much fuller picture of why Brooke Hogan is suspicious. It's not just one thing. It's a combination of a sudden death without a clear explanation from an autopsy, coupled with her father's own words to her, expressing that he felt trapped in a relationship that he wanted to get out of, and his ominous warning that it would be really bad if he tried to leave. It paints a portrait of a man who may have been in some sort of distress that went far beyond his physical health, as Brooke tells it in that story. We're left with a tragic mystery. On one side, there's an official story. On the other, there's a daughter's detailed, emotional, and deeply disturbing account of her father's final years. Now, with all these new details from his daughter, what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below as we continue to mourn the loss of a true icon, the legendary Hulk Hogan.